So we're from a center on health science side. Lorenda is recently moved over. She's a longer term faculty at the College of Education.
And human sciences.
And human sciences, sorry. Do you want to introduce yourself a little more? Or?
No, and we don't have much time.
Okay, for Colin, okay. So we've been doing this Summer Institute since 2009, and it's kind of based on our mission from the Center for Participatory Research, which also exists from 2009, and we've tried to create this idea that we are learning how to work in partnership with communities, and you know, this could be available. I don't know, Tim, if you're putting stuff up on the website.
Yeah, please send me.
But you know, you're talking, Colin, about you teaching community-based research as a method, or community participatory research, or how do you frame it?
I frame it
as community-based or participatory, or?
Yeah, it's community-based research.
Community-based.
Yeah.
So in public health, there's this tradition of CBPR. So that's where we come from, is a public health, which really talks more about the importance of participation and draws from other participatory action research models and other community engaged research models. So here's the Kellogg definition is the one that's used all the time, and was in 2001 created. And just, you know, equitable involves community and issues of priority of the community, and it's based also in community settings. The one that's below it was created by us, who we have a book that we've written or edited that really says it doesn't have to be intensive National Institute of Health research projects. It can be just community projects out in the community where they're collecting data and using information, and still, how do you do it equitably? So the whole partnering ethos is built into this. This is from our community engagement center that we had at Health Sciences Center that created this. It's not working on communities, not just in a setting like going into a school or going into a homeless shelter, but the core concept is with. And I'm not going to dwell on this but this just says this is our Center for Participatory Research, and we have an indigenous component, a kind of CBPR component. They meld. Dr. Ballone here is the PI of a major grant that we have working with tribal communities and dissemination of our work that's been shown to be effective, but we have other work. And then here is our kind of co-learning side. So here's where the CBPR Institute falls as our institute in co-learning. And it's also under the College of Population Health. We give graduate credit. You know, we give public health graduate credit. We have students from all over campus. We have faculty from campus. We have staff from campus. So, and then we have a lot of national participants. It's about 70 people who come. So it's a lot of the work of the Institute is based on this long-term study that Lorenda and I have been involved in that started in 2006 with NIH funding, where we built a model together. We then had the opportunity in stage 2 to validate the model and test it. And we surveyed 200 research partnerships across the country. You know, what are you doing? What's your practices? What are your outcomes? And then on stage 3, we had an ability to refine the measures and move the instruments also into Spanish. So we have Spanish and English instruments that are measuring or assessing, partnering, the role of important best practices. So that's basically saying that not every community engagement is the same. Not every practice works, but how do you have best practices that contribute to outcomes? And so then we developed a whole set of tools and did workshops around the country. And we're also now moving into thinking about institutional change and how academic health centers have to change. So this is the model, and you got it in your hand. And this is like a very dense model, but it's all the literature in one page. And so that and it had a lot, Lorenda led a very important paper to validate this with community partners, and they added concepts that weren't in the literature. So it's both an academic and a community. It doesn't look like it's a community model because it's so dense, but it was validated with the community partners. Wasn't it 6 focus groups or something around?
Different partners from across the country.
different community partners. And then, so we've made it a really straightforward model, and I don't know if this will help you, Colin, or anything, but saying that every time you do CBPR or community engaged research, you have to understand the context, the local context. You got to know what community you're in, what's the history of that community, what's the strategies that community has, and what are the concerns, what are the assets, what are the collaborations that community's done. And then this model says partnership is the center.
I want to also add, with context, it's also important to look at the contextual issues within the academy. There are a lot of challenges and barriers for community engaged work, for CBPR work, as someone in the academy to work with communities. So I think not only do you look at contextual issues at the local community level, I think it's also important in the academy.
Yeah, and that's kind of the direction that we were talking a little bit about yesterday. How can the academy better support community engaged scholars and students to be out in the community, for like tenure promotion guidelines and IRB, reducing IRB barriers and reducing barriers of financial barriers. The deans were talking about financial barriers. In fact, your ex-dean was talking about having broken through some of the financial barriers, or the dean of engineering was saying she uses rainforests to be able to distribute the money fast.
Wow.
We need to know that.
Yes.
Because, we work with tribal partners, and it's just, you can't just kind of wait months to get the money out, which is what our university is good at. So partnering matters, and then the partnering determines the research design. If you're doing it in partnership, then your research design, whether you're using qual or quant methods, or whether you're using mixed methods, or whether you're using, narratives or, stories from the community, it comes from the decisions by the partners. And that's a big difference of traditional ways of thinking about research, that the decisions usually, it comes just from the academic. Rather than, and then that produces outcomes. So the course itself has a lot of objectives, looking at how do you identify the historical, the theoretical perspectives that have shaped this kind of methodology. We don't talk about it, it's interesting, Colin, we don't talk about it as a method, we talk about it as an overall approach, because you can apply and use any method. And you can use any qual or quant method this overall approach is that you're doing it with community stakeholders and partners. So that's our shift in framing. I guess we use the word methodology, but we don't use the word method, CBPR method. Anyway, what are the principles? How do issues of race, gender, class, indigenous, decolonizing critical methodologies come in? What are power issues? Which actually was talked about yesterday when academics have power around financial stuff, whatever that community partners don't have, and how do you still make it equitable? And then we use the model as the whole framing of the institute. And we also have the ability to kind of ground it in a Paulo Freire methodology, participatory education methodology, the institute. So it's a week-long institute. It's got case studies, it's got lectures, it's got community partners coming, it's got, we have, we talk about intervention research, we talk about policy research, we talk about a lot, we ground it in these issues of power and kind of equity. I don't know, and it becomes an opportunity for people, students, faculty to reflect on their own positionality and who they are, really. I don't know if you want to share that.
So throughout the week, this is a schedule of what the Institute looks like. As we go through the week, we also share a lot of activities that participants can take away and really build their own toolbox of engaging with communities. So it's not just textbook, it's hands-on It's interactive, it's small group, and it's really learning from each other throughout the week, not only from the facilitators, but from each other as well. And as facilitators, we learn from the participants. So it's an engaging, very tiresome end of the week institute.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, but because we also divide people into themes, we ask them what their interests are, like some are interested in food justice, others are interested in working with native populations, others are interested in what are, different, they're just interested, we ask them environmental health. It's a health-oriented institute, but we have people who come from education, and we have people who come from social, and we have people, we've had community regional planning. I don't know if we had Michael Pride came from architecture. I'm just trying to think. We've had people from psychology. Anyway, so it's a mix. It's a mix of disciplines, and all this work is so. And they get to think about it. So we build like activities, I'm gonna end here, but this is a river of life activity which gets people into thinking about their own communities and their own context. This is from the Navajo Nation, a group that worked on, a group called COPE. They work on food issues, food sovereignty issues. Yeah, but this is kind of their path of how they've done their research together. And you can see they start like from little ideas of a rain cloud, but then they look at all the little boats of partners as they grow, and they've worked on different CDC grants and PCORI grants, and so this is kind of their research trajectory, and it allows them to share their context. We build it with the idea of the praxis, that we encourage listening, dialogue with each other, and action, and we build the research trajectory around how do partners listen to each other, engage in dialogue, and then decide the research steps together as key. And then we then build kind of using the model, what are their actions that they're doing, and there's this index. We've developed these metrics. There's an index called CIRA, Community Engaged for Research Action, that has been really important and proven to be a major contributor to outcomes, which is saying if the community is involved in all steps along the way. I mean, it has questions of all steps along the way. Community engaged in the beginning, identifying the problem, community engaged in identifying the research methods, community engaged in, sampling and deciding and doing the data collection, and then also then analysis, interpretation, and then they own the data. I mean, I've benefited personally as a non-native, being able to work with tribal communities for over 30 years and being mentored by my colleagues. And just the fact that what it really means to have data ownership by communities and being required because of tribal sovereignty. And so that's a whole shift. And so the CIRA index is really important, saying that community involvement all the way across to analyzing, interpreting, using the data for their own benefit. It's kind of a really important questionnaire, and then the outcomes. So that's it for just kind of a brief presentation. But just kind of to give it to you, Colin, that's what we do. And so you can bring students, you can suggest students or faculty to join, or you could come. We actually have very experienced people come. They just want a week to think. And it's kind of a nice idea. That it's not like they don't know or they don't engage already, but they want this extra week. Here's Michael. So we thought, we just did this started informal. I had a few slides, Michael. I'll share them with you. But Michael came to our CBPR Institute how many years ago?
Several.
Pre-COVID.
Yes. It was BC. COVID. What's the time frame again when this occurred?
It's a 1 week. And we usually now, because of we learned how to do it online during COVID. And that was intense. We much
When do you
prefer,
prefer the
we much
in-person?
prefer, because it's a very emotional period. It can be, because people are challenging themselves, kind of their own thinking of what they used to do, but it's always, it used to be the week after Memorial Day, now it's the week before Memorial Day, so we're just keeping that as a regular thing. And then we have one online session the week before that, just to get people thinking about it and going, but then, because they're coming from around the country, we make it a intensive week. They fly in. I'm having someone come in from Germany this time. Sometimes people come in from Latin America. We've had people come in from Puerto Rico. It's mostly, and Canada, we've had people from Canada. But it's in different networks, so people kind of tell each other from different networks. There's an indigenous network that people know about it from, so we have.
Did you
I
have
think
another
the
question?
year that I did it, there was a whole cohort from one community organization. Does that sound right? Like 5 or 6 people from one organization.
So what's the largest number of people you've had at the institute?
Probably the 70 you mentioned.
70?
70?
And we have facilitators for groups of about 10, so there's a lot of us who kind of engage. There's a whole group of community health workers who come each year now. That's been the last four years or something. But yeah, we have a little internal sets of conflicts. I'm always just saying, come, come, come. And my colleagues are saying, wait a minute, let's not lose the intimacy of the institute. And I think this is part of our dialogue.
I have lots of questions.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
So who are the facilitators and how do you decide who's facilitating each year?
And how are they compensated?
Sorry?
And how are they compensated?
Oh.
I think it's a good question.
So initially, there was 4 of us who started the Institute, Nina, myself, Dr. Parker, Tassie Parker, and Dr. Victoria Sanchez. Nina and I are still engaged. They'll occasionally come in and out, but a lot of our current facilitators took the Institute and come back and facilitate. And for the most part, as I was at the College of Education and Human Sciences, and this is one of the courses I was co-teaching, I didn't get no course credit, no acknowledgement. I got evaluation, we were evaluated. I shared my evaluation scores, but they weren't looked at because the comment I would get is that's a North Campus course, it's not a College of Education Human Sciences. On top of that, I didn't get any compensation, and it's all voluntary service, because it's under TMP wasn't acknowledged, under anything, wasn't accredited at all. So it was just really because it's an opportunity, had been an opportunity to just share this work and learn as we continued. So Nina Sets has developed, I don't know what you've developed,
Well, I've been
to be
trying,
able to pay a little
like
to some of the
1,000.
facilitators.
Well, I can get everybody now, but it's not a compensation for
It's like an honorarium.
commitment. Well, first of all, people don't like to give non-standard compensation payments. Not people, the university does not like to do that. So it becomes like this massive thing to try and get regular faculty a non-standard payment. People who are out, we have some facilitators from the outside, and then I can give them an honorarium as a consultant. That's easy.
Community partners who present.
Community partners get an honorarium.
Compensation.
Yeah, but like our own people. So there's 4 of us at the college who are very connected. Myself, Shannon Sanchez-Youngman, who was supposed to be here today, but who had exposure to COVID, is another colleague. Her name was on the, and then Elizabeth Dixon, who used to be at the College of Nursing, but now she's in our college. But so, and Lorenda and I. So there's the four of us, and then there's folks from around. Like we just had a new facilitator coming who actually got her MPH with us, then went ahead and got her PhD at University of Washington, now runs the Center for Race and Social Justice at the University of Washington, and she's starting to want to be a co-facilitator, and she's bringing her whole staff from the Center for Race and Social Justice from the College of Public Health, School of Public Health there, as well as some of her community partners who she works with. So she's like all excited that she wanted to bring 10 people. And I said, Wendy, I don't know about 10 people, but I think they may be coming. But Noah Painter has always brought some people from SOCH for his work up in Espanola with the DA's office. So teams are starting to come more. The CHW team. So the people who are not in a team, we bring together as a project because they're like a theme. They come together as an interest. We ask them before the week, what's your major research interest or community interest? And then we group them. And so then we kind of work with project groups now more. Yeah. Some are real project teams and others are grouped together into kind of interest groups. Pick up those, Michael. So, but it's a big issue for our college. Our college has just grown dramatically, and I wanted to approach my dean now about ensuring that our collective faculty from the college get educational credit. And I was going to do that in my performance review this year and say, you know, that it's really important that, and especially as this is a personal note, you know, if I have 3 or 4 more years of being here and I want to leave this in the good hands of my colleagues, they need to have the TNP credit already as they become the leads. Because I've been doing all the coordination and ensuring. So.
Did you have any other questions?
Yes.
No, keep asking. Keep
I
asking.
don't take all the airspace.
No, that's fine. I found your stuff online. So I'm just
Good.
reviewing.
Oh, it's not a lot online, but yeah.
Yeah, it's listen to represent.
I
Yeah.
had a question because I think, as we sort of start to cultivate this, sort of office for community engagement, one of the things that I think is really important is really setting up foundational, application of community engagement. And so I've looked at other models across the country, and some of them have academies, that are established for community engagement. And I think that's really something that I'm particularly interested in. And so, I think it would be really interesting for us to be able to partner up with you and really start to bring some of the potential faculty that are interested, because we are getting people that are, contacting us, and I'm thinking, well, this is a great model to really set some foundations for community engagement.
Tim, sorry I missed, you said some have some things.
No, that some people are interested in, academies of community engagement across the country. And, we would want to be able to establish that, so, yeah, this would be a
Well,
great.
I was even thinking from the panel yesterday, not that I've asked any of my colleagues this, but that, because people were saying the deans were saying from engineering, even your ex-dean in education and
Arts and
sciences, that they do have faculty who they think need to have some core training and who might be willing to. Some don't want to and won't do it, but some now who would want, could we establish a 2-day workshop for people that would condense this into something manageable, like a 1 day, 1 week, and then two weeks later, another day, so it could fit in people's schedule and make it available, and even have expand our co-facilitator base, people like Michael who've done this already, and there are others even, it wouldn't be bringing in the facilitators from around we have, I guess, 3 facilitators from around the country one in San Antonio, one in California, and one in Washington. But they wouldn't come for that. It would be us kind of saying, but expanded a group, maybe to start with a 2-day academy, Tim, rather than, I mean, people can come. We do have faculty who come to this, and they sign up independently. And then they go to do their, so that's always open each year, but it's a graduate course too. So we have our doc students and we have our master students, and then we don't want to lose our national group because the exchange is really interesting nationally. So we don't want it to be all UNM faculty in our week.
I really like the idea of academy, and I think about it. Yesterday I was thinking about when I was at UCLA very briefly, there was, they had a community scholars program. And so community scholars, this was in planning. And they were in class with, our graduate students, and I think they earned some kind of certificate, but without all the, the barriers to entry that you would have as a graduate student. They didn't, I don't think they paid tuition, but they still kind of earned some kind of credential. And I like the idea of an academy that could bring together community partners, community organizations, students, faculty, and gosh, what was I thinking? The other thing I thought about yesterday was like a learning community or a community of practice, so that yes, we have these intensive training things, but like I've been involved in a couple now, there are these affinity groups or communities of practice that meet virtually once every month or 2 months, depending on how the group sees it. And sometimes it's just like peer-to-peer mentoring or a little bit of I think we try to do it the hive. We try to see the hive.
But you know what, Michael, maybe even just I'm sorry to exclude people, but our two colleges could experiment together in a demonstration with the idea, because we just started our first PhD in health equity sciences with different concentrations, and we've had one group come in last year of 7, and then, but only one of them was the CBPR concentration. And this year, 25 of the 60 who applied were wanting the CBPR concentration. It's CBPR Action Science. So we admitted, I don't know if they'll all come, 6 out of the 10 that we admitted. So we'll have to see how many, but that's a huge group of the first CBPR PhD in the country.
That's great.
And
We have a question on, do you mind if I?
No, I was just thinking we could have,
Laura, do you?
No, we're talking as you're talking, because
Okay.
we're like, oh my gosh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this.
Okay.
Sorry, we
Laura,
didn't
do
mean
you
to
wanna,
talk while you were
you
talking.
want to ask your question?
Sure. Well, both Lorinda and Nina, thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but it's been lovely to be able to have this online. So thank you, Tim, for making it accessible for everyone who couldn't be there.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. What I was going to say actually reflected, I'm sorry, I don't know who was speaking, the name of who was speaking just a minute ago, but reflecting her thoughts. As Nina mentioned, we have this PhD in health equity sciences, and we'll be encouraging our CBPR students in particular to attend the this institute. And one of the things that we have built into our program is additional classes that the students can take afterwards, where there could be cohorts of students where they can continue to stay immersed in what they worked on or learned from the institute and sort of take that forward. And so I really I was just having very similar thoughts to our previous person making comments about a community of practice, or in addition to having 1 or 2 intensive days, like Nina was suggesting, we could have ways that people could continue to workshop or be in a sort of cohort to continue to work or develop things that were coming out of their work in the more intensive training. The second thing I was going to ask, but it's sort of off piece from what we were talking about, was if Nina or Lorinda wanted to highlight any sort of success stories or examples of how the Institute has had knock-on impacts in the wider community from people who have attended, or to illustrate the value it can have to the wider community, not just to us as academics.
It was, it was about exposure of the research to an outside audience, wider than the academic audience. And
what is?
Laura, if can you repeat that? And says, I think of the,
Sure.
yeah, do you want to try, let me see if I can point this.
No, that's fine. Sorry about that. Well, the first thing I was just saying, oh, sure, I can type the question too if that's easier. I was just saying, firstly, I like the idea of a community of practice and having an opportunity for cohorts or whatever, if we did do more intensive 1 or 2 day trainings, to be able to continue on that work in more sort of longer term ways with mentorship or peer-to-peer support, as our other commenter from the audience was saying. But the question I had was also wondering if Nina or Lorenda wanted to take an opportunity to highlight the impact that any examples of the impact the Institute's had in the wider communities, success stories or examples to show not just the benefit to the academics, but to our wider communities of doing things like this.
Examples of the
Well, I might
CBPR being applied.
I might just say that when Noah Painter, who's a faculty in Soch, started coming, like 2 years ago, he brought someone from the DA's office and he brought a student, and they're now really embedded in this idea of reducing race inequities in arrests and prosecution of young people in the northern DA's region of Santa Fe and Espanola. And so now they've expanded to working with Moving Arts Espanola and with the Health Council, and they're kind of really working. And it's been now, this will be the 3rd year in a row where he's bringing in people from the north to be involved and get grounded so they can keep working more effectively as partnering to reduce racial inequities in criminalization of young people, because they're trying to build a youth advisory board and trying to build a community advisory board with providers and folks who are working with young people in trouble. So that's to me, because now it's the 3rd year. He basically, sorry, Lorenda, he just emailed me and said, are there still spaces? And one of our new faculty members joined him in the project, Verlin Joseph. And Verlin is a new to the college social epidemiologist who joined this research area and is now writing a big grant on that. So that's to really have an impact on lives, on real people's lives. But it's good that they're he's trying to cycle more people in.
To keep growing the capacity of those organizations and agencies to apply these principles. I think it's great.
Yeah. So I told Noah it was full, but because it was him, I would let 2 people in.
Right.
Well, because I'm trying to support his ongoing work,
So, if we took this to another level, at the level of the academy, and that we followed some of the other programs like the SEP Fellows and that Teaching Fellows program.
Jennifer has that.
The graduate student program?
No, the one, it's for faculty. So we've had, especially junior faculty, in some of those, and they get a stipend, they get some compensation or some incentive, and they become a cohort, and they go through, they commit to participating in the training. I was a SEP fellow.
What does SET stand for?
Student Experience Project.
Oh, SET. Okay.
Which was a 5-institution research project around closing the gap in student achievement among, underrepresented minorities, first gen, and very low income. But anyway, it was cool. But there was, I think how they could compensate us was there was at least a couple of workshops over the summer. Just so happened this project launched at UNM in summer 2020.
So it
So
became
that was
online.
interesting, but it was also really helpful to have like this community of other faculty who are trying to figure out how to support students. And we were supporting each other and supporting students through, that whole online year. But anyway, something like that could help. We talked about building faculty capacity. There's a lot of faculty interest and student interest in community engaged work. But if we had a program like that to support them with real content, training, learning community, peer-to-peer
I like that idea.
assistance could help keep growing this, cohorts and generations of faculty to
I mean,
do
we
this kind
could
of work.
start it with, a couple workshops that we would offer. I
Yes.
really like the idea of it being cross-college workshops, not like just only something for arts and science or only something for engineering, but it would be, that kind of came up yesterday, but Jennifer, you had other questions.
Yes. So this is making me think about
Why don't
last
you move
year.
up, Tim?
Okay.
Why don't we get to be a close?
Why don't we, come up to the table?
I do have to run, guys, I'm gonna
There's
teach my
All
class.
right, you have to teach.
Yes.
Okay, Tim, okay, thank you, yeah.
Tim, did you leave somebody to manage your Zoom?
Yes.
So the kind of cross-disciplinary, I'm thinking maybe think back to last year's spring conference when we focused on graduate students teaching, learning, leading, and how on individual panels, because once those presentations sort of were coming through, it's like, okay, how do we put folks together? What was beautiful to see is, say, for example, someone doing a mini workshop, math and stats, and then someone from French in that same cluster. There was another cluster that we had where was focus on critical pedagogies, and on that panel was someone from Maria Center, actually. So she was from geography. Another independent presenter was from teacher education. And one of the things that I did was reach out to the clusters and say, okay, you're individual presenters, but you're on the same panel, talk to each other. And seeing how people work together, and then in person, the presentation. And then we had the social after a draft and table, and just the joy that was experienced. I mean, I was tired because I was planning, doing all the planning. But, it made me think, how do we sustain that connection? Even with our course design institutes that we have, which involve faculty from multiple disciplines. I remember last time saying, okay, there's a lot of great exchanges, get somebody's telephone number and email address before you leave. And I was actually curious with the different cohorts that you have across time in your institute. What can you share about the longevity of maybe the clusters that you've put them in for the institute, and how people stay in contact, and if you get feedback on that, like, oh, we're still together working on X or Y project, and what are the things that help people stay together over time?
Well, we haven't had resources, is all I can say, because some people have created their own Slack channels, from the Institute, and and I'm just not very social media focused or oriented, but we don't have we've never, we have the Center for Participatory Research, but we have no institutional support, zero,
Really?
never.
So it's all grants?
It's all grants, but the grants have their own,
Specific.
we're
area.
we're committed to each other, but there's no, hey, Karen, nice to see you.
Intimate circle.
And I can't not hug the panelists.
Beautiful people as well as phenomenal leaders. Oh my gosh. Oh, your hair's so long. Look good to see you.
Yeah, we got
Much to learn.
Grab grab some of this anyway.
There is a huge interest by the participants in the Institute for continued connection. So we do share everyone's, email, and also add them to a listserv. But I mean, again, you can't do very much without having the resources and someone to
Track all of
keep
that.
that going.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's.
I love communications. If I had some time in my schedule, I would love.
I would love, hey, you want to come?
No, I don't just stay in it, but I just love the idea, seeing how relationships continue and how.
Well, different individual relationships do continue, and we've become mentors of different participants who added us to, well, no, even people who officially are in a, their own fellowship, and then the fellowship director calls Lorenzo or me and says, can you be an official mentor to people who were in the Institute? So then we get pulled in and we either say yes or I can't do it. But typically we always say yes because we're committed to people.
Okay, Nina, I would like a mentor.
I was going to say, there's a need on our campus, right? When we think of system-wide kind of change, wouldn't it be phenomenal if we had, and their institute is incredible, but it draws people who already believe in this, right? And how do we have some sort of system-wide understanding of how CBPR isn't just like, oh, nice, it's nice that you're doing that, right? This is at the heart of good research, and it should be what we do as an institution, system-wide. And I wonder if we could get, like, if there was a list of some of the most known researchers on our campus or whatever, right? Bring them together and have the two of these phenomenal leaders help us shape what that conversation would look like and how we would help move the needle campus-wide, Because I think
it could be interesting, they associate deans, every college has an associate dean for research, and they meet regularly. And so that could be a venue to have a conversation about expanding, deepening, our research practice. So you start from talking about research, like you said, and then bring in a CBPR as an established, effective approach, especially with so many of our colleagues work in really vulnerable communities, or their work is dedicated to vulnerable communities.
Well, I mean, community engagement, you're right, it's so big, and you could start with like this academy on community engaged research, just to kind of have a focus rather than all of community engagement, which includes service learning and everything. But the idea of focusing on research would be at least beginning, and then you could build an academy of community, community engaged service. So you could build different academies maybe.
and community engaged policy, I remember that.
Yeah, we do that in our CBPR Institute. We focus on policy.
So just before you got here, Karan, we were working on talking about a community engagement academy, right? And a learning community or a community practice. And I've kind of thought we should bring back the hive.
How is the hive? Is the hive
It's
still
dormant.
It's dormant, okay.
Yeah.
But it's still an alive spirit. I think art is always claiming, this is a hive project. This is a hive project.
Well, he claims, he makes claims.
And, we see connections and then go, okay, yeah, it's very hivey. But the hive
Tell people what the hive is, Michael.
it's an informal network of mostly faculty staff, some students. We've had people from outside community groups and government agencies that what brought us together is a commitment to addressing social determinants of health. And so it's across Lomas for sure. And HIVE is an acronym for health, inclusion, vibrancy, and equity.
You did good.
Right.
There's none us could remember, even that are in Hive. But it is that coming together of folks that might be engaged with community, the most vulnerable communities, and then how do we learn and share with each other, and try and do it through that equity lens, you know?
So I think it would help the Carnegie application, because there's a whole, the reason part of this whole thing was created this week, as a whole week, was kind of to get ideas for the Carnegie designation of community engaged scholarship. There's a reapplication that's happening right now. We lost it as an institution, right?
No,
we haven't
We still have it, but it's a reapplication.
We're not successful in our first application.
Oh.
I think we're on the second one in our first term.
But by being able to say we're building these strategies, a strategy of an academy, a strategy of a community scholar. Michael was talking about a community scholars program. I'm even thinking for our doc students that each of them should have a community mentor. And we should pay the community mentors.
Yes.
Our CBPR doc students all need to have a, you know, because the Kellogg and RWJ, when both of them as foundations did postdocs for CBPR over the years, one of the criteria always was each postdoc was required to have a community mentor equal to their academic
In a
mentor.
way that aligns with.
And they were paid. That Robert Wood Johnson, I mean, they had money. Robert Wood Johnson paid the mentors, the community mentors. But it might be possible from CBPR fees to pay community mentors.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we're working on the.
Laura, did you hear that?
Sorry, it's a little bit hard to hear when it's other people, but can you repeat it?
That our PhD students could have, so just, maybe we should introduce ourselves. Laura Nellums is on the phone. Do you want to introduce yourself, Laura?
Sure. I don't know if you can hear me well, or if you can see my picture, but I'm Laura Nellums, and I'm our PhD program director in the College of Population Health, and also a part of the CBPR concentration that we have. And I recently came to UNM last September from the University of Nottingham in England, but I'm really excited to be a part of this community doing, community engaged work.
And who else is on the line? Somebody else is?
Yeah, there are two people that are black boxes.
Anyone want to introduce themselves?
Somebody.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
Could you speak louder? Or wait, Carol, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, det är alltså Kyle Harvey and Shek Logunschle. So hi everyone, my name is Kyle Harvey. I am the new Student and Graduate Services Coordinator for the Department of Native American Studies. So been in this position since the start of this semester, so it's great to meet everybody.
Thank you. And the other person on? Welcome.
Yes. Hi, I'm Faith Brandt. I'm with the UNM Brain and Behavioral Health Institute. So I work with the researchers there with their community engagement and research. So.
Okay. Jennifer, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh. Good morning. I work with the Center for Teaching and Learning in teaching support, so consulting with faculty around pedagogical change, doing course observations, ideating on different activities and assignments, and being involved in Planning Course Design Institute, our Grad Scholars Program, and other things. Actually, we have just completed a cohort of SET biology students. So it's kind of like the grad student level, kind of first iteration of SET. And so hopefully that will, spread and we'll do it in other departments and so on. So there's a whole lot going on, and we're always open for partnership. But of course, looking at wellness, I think we have to look at our collective wellness and individual wellness as we try to do many, many things. But there's a lot of exciting things to be happening. To be engaged in around not just teaching and learning in terms of courses, but how do we work with people who do co-curricular programs that really nicely complement what's happening in the classroom. So much to think about. And so, yeah, that's it for
Carol,
me, I think.
why don't you let Carol introduce
Oh,
herself?
Carol, okay, go ahead.
I am Carol Ibarra Orquero, and I work for the Office of Community Engagement with Professor Tim Castillo. We're getting consolidated as an office. Right now we have many hats, and we're also working in the reclassification for the Carnegie certification. So we're trying to gather all the data that we can to make the case that we are engaging the communities. So we're starting to contact different departments and the deans to see what faculty are doing and what are the students also doing so that we can prove that we are indeed deserving of that classification.
Good morning, I'm Michael Pride, and I'm the architecture faculty and director of our Design and Planning Assistance Center.
And I'm Kiran Katira with the Community Engagement Center, and I've had the pleasure of working with Carol and Jen to help make this week happen, and so just an honor to be here. And then you already did. Questions?
So I'm hearing,
Who's that?
I'm hearing 3 different strategies, but I'd like to keep it. One strategy is, maybe this is more from yesterday, the idea of looking across campus and creating at least a menu of options that could be called a community engagement certificate for grad students.
Yeah.
And that would be a good strategy to add to the Carnegie Foundation application. The other strategy is, how do we support community mentors to be, as community scholars, to be mentors to our students or to our faculty even? How do we support and the resources to support community scholars, which is what you brought up, Michael, and you know, that kind of idea. And maybe in our case, in our doctoral program, Laura, this is what I was trying to see if you had heard, in our own CBPR doctoral concentration, adding the fact that we should have community mentors for each of our doc students, not just academic mentors, but community mentors, and figuring out a way to support them, to pay them, even an honorarium. And we probably, a lot of us have people who might be willing. We know people who might be willing to be a community mentor. And the third is a faculty academy, which is how do we start it? that the Office of Community Engagement could start with collaboration with the Community Engagement Center, with our Center for Participatory Research, but I really like the idea, and maybe with your Center for Teaching and Learning, that we do it as a partnership, but I really like the idea of focusing on community engaged research first, not just try to do all community engagement, but an academy of CBPR/community engaged research, or in education they often call it participatory action research. So, being able to bring together participatory research traditions and see if we can generate on campus a group of colleagues, including the 2 of you as co-facilitators to this new CBPR Community Engaged Research Academy. And so we first we come together as a day, maybe in the summer, even this summer, where we talk about what it could look like for faculty who can't maybe come to the whole CBPR Institute, but maybe who would come to a 2-day event. And that we started. And there must be faculty, we might just all have people who've been at the Institute. We have certainly this year, actually, in our Institute, we have this whole influx of new faculty in the college. So I think 6 or 7 of our new faculty are coming to the Institute to be, including Laura Nellum's on the line, to be have that opportunity to reflect together and to think together, and to think, how do we support this in our college? And, but that could be a growth of new, quote, facilitators who might be willing to join as a collective this summer for, it could even be a half day. How do we think about creating a CBPR Community Engaged Research Academy? And you may know people from main campus. We'd have to look at who also has come before to the CBPR Institute, Loretta from main campus. But it doesn't just have to be people who came to the Institute. It could be others who are doing, community engaged research.
Your presenters.
Yeah, Leola from Native American Studies.
You've got a lot of presenters.
I have a question.
But anyway, it's a thought of how do we get a group together to grow an academy, and we just start it because we want to start it. We don't wait for anybody.
All the Hive list,
They might be interested.
yeah, we've centered CBPR in the Hive, and actually, when I say it's dormant, we didn't call it Hive after a while, but we got when we submitted for the HUD grant on community development and housing, that grew from the Hive.
Yeah, so there's outcomes, but I would like the first meeting to be people who really could be facilitators. Not just people who want to come and be trained, but people who could be trained. Or who are doing it enough, they don't have to have gone through our CBPR Institute, but who could be co-facilitators because they're doing it strongly themselves.
That's that experiential piece, right? Because I think of Irene Vasquez, who's never been through the Institute, but all of her research, all of her ways of being are with community, right? And through Chicano studies, that's what she does, right? And so she should be there in the mix as someone who's
you would know people from main campus that Lorena might know more people from main campus that I wouldn't know.
And there's staff as well, right? So there are staff that are doing research in community, with community, who would be great in the mix as well. Because we know that sometimes it's faculty, sometimes it's staff that could be part of that academy. And then the community mentors and the community fellows that was mentioned. And Michael said in a sidebar to me, that's like public allies too, right? Because we have the public allies program on campus, and that is where young people, often graduate students, undergraduate students, others, get mentored by community members, and they're engaged in learning and unlearning and research as well, some of them. So
we could build, what we were just doing as a sidebar conversation too, is it wouldn't just be what's in the Institute, but we might want to add like a good chunk on like T&P issues. What does our institution need to do to expand T&P criteria about engagement across colleges? So we might want to, but again, we would probably want to have contributions to what would be in a 2-day academy from different colleagues. We would want to contribute from our CBPR Institute, like the model and how we work with it and all of that. But there would be other contributions to what an academy would. But I'm not thinking of a long academy. I'm thinking of what can we do in 2 days that might entice.
I love that.
But I would start with faculty and high, staff that are heavily involved. And I would focus not on students yet. I would want it to be who are going to be ongoing people who would lead this in their own colleges. And then we can figure, as a couple, I can get excited. I could imagine having a meeting this summer of, just gather after our institute and after we recover. But
Is it your institute?
It's the week before Memorial Day.
Oh.
So, I know summer people go in and out. We could even wait till September if we wanted. But I don't know, when's the Carnegie application?
It's next year. We are planning to submit everything by April.
Oh, so we have time.
Yes.
It would be good if we could have a summer meeting and then agree to come together in the fall to develop the co-facilitators together. The meeting would be just gathering and saying, what can we draw from, and where's the expertise and around campus. But then we would ourselves have a one-day self-training, especially for those who hadn't been in our institute. We would present some of our work and maybe others could present some of theirs. You know, Leola's doing a decolonizing panel this tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So you know, actually we're going to have this incredible speaker this time from Germany, and I'm going to send it out across campus on decolonizing methodologies. And she's been working in anti-racist work. She's a refugee, Bulgarian refugee living in Germany. And we've connected through this international collaborative that we belong to.
That's great.
And she's coming just on her own. And she was going to give a presentation on the right to refuse research by communities.
Nice.
You know, that it's not just that, you know, what does it really mean for communities to have power?
Right.
What does it really mean?
The power to say no.
And so also just her own view of decolonizing methodologies, but also kind of reaching into that, you know, and our own partners have said, we now know who we want to work with. We don't, you know, and when other researchers come to our communities after working with Lorinda and me and other colleagues for quite a long time, they say, we don't want just anybody coming into our communities to do research. We only want people who come in who get it. And so they've got the capacity now to say no if they want.
And you know, as a higher ed institution, we've got a reputation out there that's not good. Most higher ed institutions is the same. And what's hard is sometimes you bring that up on UNM's campus and it's not taken well, right? Because people are too much
we're
into,
good.
yeah,
People think we're
don't
good.
be so anti-UNM. And I'm like, I'm not. I actually love UNM. That's why we need to do it better, right? And yeah, but they take it as a like, you're not with us, you know? And that happens within our I'm in student affairs, and it's a very much a rah-rah-rah kind of space, you know? so it's hard to bring up things that might sound like we've got work to do.
Yeah, but I guess that brings up one of the critical dispositions that help or that lead people to this work, and then for those who maybe on the sidelines, I guess really it's about a spirit of humility for starters. And so how do you help the ambivalent to sort of embrace that, you know?
That's right, the promotion machine, or the promotion project is in conflict with the humility and empathy project.
That's well expressed. Yes. That could be a topic for a whole
Well, actually, yesterday, Rania said we need to have some T&P criteria that acknowledge work when your name isn't even on it.
Yes.
When your name doesn't need to be on it because the community is leading it, but you're still part of the group, but you're not claiming all of the authorship.
That would release us from so much that binds us at universities in terms of what have you published, what have you individually done, rather than everything should be collective anyway.
Yeah, and also I really like that they both touch Dean Mallard from the engineering college. She was also saying that some of the engineers go when they're like the heroes.
Right.
They want to do something more like a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
So I guess that reduces the protagonism of being like the lead, and if it's a group, it works better. Reduce competitiveness and
Yeah, that makes me think if people are to model some of the ABET criteria that talk about, you know, the cultural elements, like if you're going to really do that, you really got to embrace humility, unless you're just wanting to check a box that looks like you have that deep cultural awareness or investment in the histories of people and the ways that they have solved their own problems and so on. So if we're not gonna check a box, really humility, it really comes back to that again.
You know, in the anti-racism world, we worry about teaching people how to be savvy racists, right? By giving them the language, giving them... And I feel like universities do that in so many different ways, because we give people the language of like, okay, I'm supposed to do this with, right? So let me put in this language. And so it's the authentic, right? Humility, authentic collaboration, authentic, like, you know, it's a whole different,
Right. Okay, yeah, so the cycle for the Carnegie is, the deadline is April 1st, 2025. We will be notified on December 2025, and the public announcement will be done for January 2026. So we're really in a tight deadline because we need to gather all the data, I guess get the stats, get the report written, and there's a lot of things involved. So.
But I also think it's not just what we've done, but what are the strategies to make us better?
Yes.
So there has to be within the Carnegie application, these are our lines of work. Like a community, CBPR Academy is a line of work. A community engagement certificate or a community engaged research or CBPR certificate for graduate students that's across campus. That would be like this menu of courses that a grad student could take that would give them a certificate as part of their, whatever discipline they're in. They could also take these 5 courses, or I mean, it wouldn't be only, there would be like a menu of courses they could take. And we would
5 of these courses.
And that would be designated as community engaged courses.
Yeah. There's a graduate certificate that Nancy Lopez and I
Yeah,
are part
the
of the
Race and Social
institute.
Justice,
Yeah, so we're part of that institute for the study of race and social justice. And that graduate certificate has almost like a grounding course. So there has to be one that is the glue, you know, is the glue for that certificate. And then the others can be through advisement, right? Advisement is key of which classes count. And then there's a menu, right, that's based on a rubric. So if you want your class to be a part of the community-based participatory research grad, or whichever, you know, the grad certificate, you have to apply to people who are on a committee that review it with a rubric to say, they do have these elements, they do talk about power, they do talk, you know, there are certain things, and then it gets to be in a menu, and it helps advisement, because advisement just goes by, you know, they don't know those classes.
Right, and
That's something we
And we have 2 comments from the Zoom. We have 2 comments from the Zoom. Summer Reach programs might be a perfect opportunity to extend our reach to prospective students. This would be a great way to introduce YPAR methodologies. That's from Kaylee Harvey. And from Faith, are there spaces open for the 2024 CBPR summer camp? If so, where do you go to register?
they should email me if they're interested.
Okay.
I could, because we have dropouts at the last minute.
So right now it's full.
Oh, it's
But there could be, you can get on a waiting list.
Yeah,
Okay.
but did you hear that? Did she hear that? Tell her, put in the chat my email, Carl, you
Yes.
know it, right?
Yes. Let me just.
I mean, it's,
Summer Bridge, how many of the units still do that?
She said yes, I have your email.
Afro still does it.
Yeah. So we just had in this room last night. Well, it's not exactly Afro. I'm confused. I had meetings for everything yesterday, but the McNair scholars
Oh, yeah, I love
thing
them.
was last night right here. But we also had a meeting of the HHMI.
McNair would be a great one too.
well, I mean,
McNair's a really great one. Because they have to do research.
I know, but what I would love to personally focus on, and maybe we have a number of folks, I would like to train faculty
Yes,
first.
yes.
Yeah,
And,
100%.
and so then that can
Yeah.
get infused into the McNair students.
Yeah.
So I think we first pull together faculty and high-level staff direct that are potentially facilitators, not new potentially facilitators who might be willing to be facilitators.
How
couldn't
soon
agree
could we
more.
run that little 2-day academy? How soon?
I mean, I could run it in the fall.
Fall.
I couldn't agree more regarding the facilitation, because McNair has the potential to be a great space to do CPPR, but right now, the people may not have been exposed to what it is, or,
So they could
how
be
to-
invited to a two-day.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do a two-day personally in the fall.
So that underscores maybe the concept of getting together in the summer and figuring out what that is.
And I'm
Carol,
even willing
do
to
you
do
guys
a
have
one-day
evidence?
kind of self-training in the summer too. I'm just saying, part of why I know this works is I've been doing this in Brazil, and right now, and we just published our curriculum in Portuguese, and it's incredible, and it's got trained facilitators all over the country. And we started by coming together as colleagues to co-construct and to kind of deconstruct, co-construct some of the work that I've been doing forever, but deconstruct and put it in a Brazilian context. And then they became facilitators. So this last year, I just came back, we had 10 teams around the country, 10 participatory research teams around the country. 5 of the teams came into Sao Paulo School of Public Health, and I was there. But they also had co-facilitators who were all, I kind of floated, but they were co-facilitated each team. And then we had 5 teams around the country, all independently co-facilitated with the curriculum. And we would just get together once a day and do a Zoom dialogue with 100 people around the country. But groups in the Amazon, and a group in Rio, and a group in Bahia, and a group in Pernambuco. I mean, they were all self-sustaining groups, but we had come together and agreed on what the academy was, so to speak. And I led that, but it's kind of like, it can happen. We can do it.
Yes.
But you have to be, I worked in Brazil a long time, so I carefully invited people from around the country in the health promotion, public health network that I belong to, and in the first time where we recreated it together. And so it'd be like our careful invitation to people who would love to co-facilitate, and then we co-construct. I mean, we would bring stuff from our institute, but other people would bring stuff too, and we would make what that academy would be. We'd start with a 2-day academy. And so that then you build co-ownership because we're doing it together.
Right, yes.
And then you build the times when, the 2 days here, then the 2 days here, then and different people can lead the 2 days. Doesn't have, we start with us doing it, but then we grow the facility, because we've been growing the facilitator each year, and I've been doing this annual since 2018, and so each year we grow new facilitators. They want to then co-facilitate another project, and it's all co-facilitated.
And I didn't even know that you did that, and I would love to be mentored to co-facilitate, some of those spaces. I do that internally with our young ones, right? So it's not, I didn't do it outside, so I just,
Well, we would be part of the center. I mean, we would. Are there questions, Carol, or thoughts?
I asked questions.
They say none here, thank you.
Lots of maybe your low battery.
Yeah, but his cable is not working and mine is neither, and I forgot the other cable.
Oh, no. So no more internet for them?
No,
It's gonna
it
shut
works,
down.
but it's just like it's going to die pretty soon, the battery.
Well, text them that it's going to die, but if they have other questions, they could email you, Carol, or Lorinda and me. Maybe just text them that
I only have 2 cables that are working.
you just wrote down a bunch of that.
Well, I just on a side note, I want to say that we were working on this project in Santa Fe, and I called Victoria Sanchez. I was like, could you just do like a peer review of our research plan, you know? Like she was great. No, wait, it was our research plan. It was, we were trying to develop, or we did develop a memorandum of agreement for our community, you know, with our community partners. And so she reviewed that and gave some comments, we revised it, and then our community partners revised it some more. And ultimately, the other day, I was like, I don't even know if anybody ever signed that thing, but we extracted out of it like an agreement on governance and voting that everyone did sign.
So Shannon just put together, Shannon couldn't be here because of being exposed to COVID, but she just put together a structural governance module for national efforts. So we just did a training national community-based organization. But we need more examples of resources, of examples of memorandums of, do you have that? Would you be willing to share it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd be happy, I would love your feedback, actually.
I would love to ask, I mean, we have ours around our publication.
Yeah, let me try this.
We were able to, because that was, I mean, one
It worked.
project
Okay, it worked? Good. This one worked.
Breathe. No design? You go homeless. I don't know if I can do that.
Oh, well, share it. I'll share my slides that I just showed.
And I'll share our report that was the result that was then informed the policy document that came out for this redevelopment. Yeah.
So I think we should close this session and just continue these ideas.
Okay.
With our collaborative centers.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you so much for your participation. Yay.